In this tutorial, we are giving the percentage of each of these three grids, so 1, 2, 3, that is shaded green. So let's start. So one of the main methods that we're going to use here is that we're going to rename the information in each of these diagrams as fractions. And from there, we'll work out what the percentage is. So let's deal with our very first diagram right here. Our first job is to come up with a fraction that represents the information in the diagram. So here's our fraction bar. Now, one of the things we have to establish is how many subregions are there within the entire diagram. And in this particular case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 subregions there. So the whole diagram has been split into 6 even parts. And how many of those parts are shaded green? Well, in this case, there are 2. At this point, I'm good to go with turning it into a percent. Now, the way we want to do that is to multiply by 100. Now, the 100 comes from this idea that we want percentages, because percent means per 100 or out of 100. And if I'm going to multiply by 100 and I've got a fraction over here, I really need to turn the 100 into a fraction, so I put it over 1. Any whole number, to express it as a fraction, would be over 1. And now I just apply what I know about multiplying fractions, which is numerator multiplied by numerator. So what is 2 times 100? So that's 200. And denominator multiplied by denominator. So of course 6 times 1, well, that's 6. And I'm nearly there. So at this point I'm going to use my calculator, and 200, and this fraction bar right here means divided by. So it's 200 divided by 6. And the answer here is 33.333. 33.33 recurring percent. And that would be correct. I can round it off if you like to 33.3 recurring percent. And either is fine. Okay, so that's that one. Let's have a look at our second diagram. Now, for the second diagram, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 equivalent parts. So the denominator is 4. There's 4 equivalent parts in total. And out of that total, one of them is shaded green. So our fraction becomes a quarter. Now, if you know some basics about fractions and their equivalent percentages, you'll know straight away that 1/4 is the same as saying 25%. And that is correct. However, we want to be able to work it out as well, showing some working. So let's try it a different way. If I start with a quarter, let's multiply by 100. Remember how we were talking before for the previous one up here? We multiply by 100 because we're talking about percentages, so 100 over 1 to make it a fraction. And we just multiply numerator times numerator, which is 100, and denominator times denominator, which is 4. Now, 100 divided by 4, if you don't know, use your calculator. 100 divided by 4, don't forget this fraction bar means divided, and you get 25. And when it comes to a quarter, there is another way to think about it. You've got a quarter. How can I get from 4, a denominator of 4, to a denominator of 100? Well, it's pretty simple, of course, because I just multiply by 25. Whatever I do to the bottom, got to do to the top. And 1 times 25 is 25. 25 over 100. Well, percent means per 100 or out of 100. I've already got 25 out of 100, so I know that it's 25%. So 3 different ways to get to the same answer there. Okay, so let's take a look at the third and final diagram. So here we have quite an interesting looking shape, and this has no divisions. But what we can do in these sort of scenarios is put our own divisions in and see if it makes sense. So here, it looks like there's an obvious division there. Okay, so it looks like we're dealing with these little squares, in which case here's another division. Okay, this will obviously be another division running across, okay, to cut up some more little squares. That's obviously a division there, all the way down. And this one doesn't have any clear divisions yet going horizontally. It's got one there. It's got none horizontally, but I know that all the others are little squares like this, so I can put in one here to cut those guys into little squares. Let me just move that down so it looks a little bit more feasible. Okay, so that's it. So, well, what is the total number of regions that I've got in this particular shape? So let's count them up. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there should be 6 in the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it is. So it is a denominator of 12. How many are green? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7 over 12. 7 over 12, I will resort to the main method that we've been using and just multiply the fraction by 100 over 1. So what is that? That's going to be 7 times 100 is 700, and I have 12 times 1, which is 12. So at this point, I use my calculator, and I say 700 divided, that's that fraction bar, means divided. So divided by 12. Push the equals, and I get 58.3. So 58.3 recurring percent. And that is the correct answer for that one. So that's how we've been doing them. We've been converting or renaming the information that's contained within a diagram, and we're converting that into a fraction form. And then from that point, we're able to apply a couple of strategies to converting it or renaming the fraction as a percent.